right, good evening. Today is Monday, January the 6th, 2024, couple minutes after 5:30. And this is a meeting of the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel. The recording of this meeting will be available on the Lunenburg Public Access YouTube channel within 24 hours. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. Public participation is encouraged, and public comments may be welcomed during committee member discussions at the discretion of the chair. So we're going to begin today with the format tonight for the agenda is pretty straightforward. I'm going to provide a very brief project overview, and then I'm going to turn it over to the architectural team for them to provide us with an update. Hopefully, we will get through that update, and then we can try to reserve most of our questions for the end, unless there's something you are really confused about. And then after the presentation is over, we'll go through kind of all those questions and analysis, and I'm sure they'll have the slide deck to go back to different slides. We're going to start with any public comments today. Any public comments from the board? All right, any public comments from our APDC representative?
No.
And any public comments from the public? All right. Hearing none, we're going to go into our project overview. So as a reminder, I know I've been kind of giving some overviews in previous meetings. We've been working for a couple of years now to identify how to reutilize. It started with this committee, at least with the TC Pastios building. Once we got to a dollar amount, identified what was essentially a very substantially high cost. And we identified in that process that roughly almost $30 million would be committed toward that renovation without touching the town hall and Ritter building. And so we changed the charge of the committee to more broadly look at all municipal buildings. And in that process, we've gone through several iterations, meeting with numerous members of the community in the previous process and this one, identifying space needs analysis. And so what we're working with Taylor and Burns on is kind of repackaging all that data that we've accumulated over the last several years into a design that could work for town hall, Ritter building, and the meeting house. So I think in process, we've identified kind of this as we still need to phase it out. But there's another component to this project, which is not being addressed in this meeting today, which is what remains with TC Pastios and the different functions that we have there. So I'm just going to end that project overview if there aren't any questions. And I'm going to turn it over to Robert and Stephen and Marley. Just want to remind all three of you that you are on mute. So I just want to turn it over to you guys and go ahead and give us the update, and I look forward to this.
Thank you, Michael Ray. With your introduction, I will just tell you what we have in mind, and Stephen has a slide deck to share. So if you could transfer meeting, whatever that's called, control to him.
Sure.
We have an agenda of really 3 items. We're going to talk about the programming and program adjacencies with some diagrams and floor plans. We're going to talk about the exterior of the building, call that architecture with perspectives. And then we're going to show you a 3-dimensional model that we have underway. As you know, you saw a prior version of that last time. We've updated that. So with the program diagrams, let's advance the slide here. First up is the overall picture of the municipal buildings of Lunenburg and the parking lots. And This is slightly modified from last time in the footprint of the new town hall. We've brought it into orthogonal relationship with the Ritter building, meaning it meets the Ritter at a 90-degree angle. Previously, we had it aligning with School Street, and I think that made for somewhat awkward appearance of the building when seen from Mass Ave or from the old town hall. And so we have, you can see that the arrangement of the front part of the new town hall is ortho to the Ritter Memorial Building. But then we pushed much of the program toward the back of the building and align that with School Street. So it makes for a unusual footprint, but I think that's all pretty clear once you begin to see how the program lays out on the inside and how it looks on the outside. So it's the same arrangement of main entrance and secondary entrance on School Street. Let's go to the next slide. These are program adjacency diagrams, and Stephen has really been thinking hard on this and putting together a series of thoughtful slides. So I'm going to let Stephen take over from here.
Thanks, Robert. So what we have here is, as Robert just said, the program adjacency diagrams. We had a version of these last week that we shared, or 2 weeks ago now, that we shared with you. And keeping a lot of those relationships that we had last time, which were seemingly working. On the first floor of the new town hall, we have the non-building program that's functional to the town hall. So the accounting, the treasurer, the town clerk, and assessors. And that is sitting as ortho to the Ritter building, which is completely filled with the school program. That lower level of the existing Ritter building is now the ACE program, and the 1960s wing is that school district offices, which is very similar to what's upstairs on the Ritter building, which is the rest of the school district offices. And on the second floor of the Ritter or of the new town hall, we have the building focused program for the town hall. So the building department, planning department, conservation, town manager, and board of health. These are all interrelated and they have separate offices, but they are in very close proximity to each other. So we're going to build these up now and show them where they're going to be sitting within that building or on the footprint of these buildings in a three-dimensional view. So this is the school program on the lower level, which is reserved for the ACE program, like I had just mentioned. Square footage lines up really well with the existing space. It allows for private offices, a kitchen, and a more open conference area where meetings, activities, and anything else can take place down in that lower level. When we look at the 60s edition, the school superintendent's office was the main focus here. We wanted to make sure they were situated on that site really prominently. Their office has that large existing window, and it looks over Mass Ave back towards the meeting house. So they have this really prominent place in the site, which was important for that individual. And then on the lower level of the town hall, where Robert mentioned you can enter on the Mass Ave side here or the School Street side over here. And so this, as I mentioned before, is all the town hall function that is not specifically for the building. Town clerk, which I mentioned before. Stepping up to that second floor, the upper level of the Ritter building, it's some school offices. This has a special services office and HR and other smaller offices that fit in this space very well that don't need direct proximity to the school superintendent. And now finally, the upper level of the new town hall. This houses the building functions of the town hall and have outward facing transaction counters and public interface, while the officials also have private offices. So the town manager won't be dealing with people at that transaction counter. They'll be in their private office that have south-facing windows along the back axis over here. Then looking at these same relationships in a plan view, just so you can all see where people will be situated. Starting on the east side over here with the superintendent's office and the other school offices at a large zoomed out view. The school is completely in that Ritter building. And the new town hall has a central staircase and a central elevator. We've looked at the elevator in different places. We've looked at it around the connection between the Ritter building and the new town hall, which I had to go against this just because getting an elevator to line up perfectly with the existing floor levels, and also looking at the logistic problems of having the existing foundation and an elevator line up next to each other.
Stephen, sorry to interrupt, but just so that everybody understands, since the elevator is not labeled in the plan, yeah, it's that rectangle next to the stair and the cross, right at the crossroads of the new town hall. Sorry.
No, thanks for clarifying that. So that central staircase there provides access to both levels, while over here between the two buildings, that ramp is flanked by offices. So that space where 2 weeks ago we had just a ramp in this umbilical cord connection over is now programmed and functional. So the space is completely functional now. As we move up to the second level, a lot of the walls that we have stacked just for structural purposes, and also the primary organization of the building works very well this way. So this allows for the town manager to have south-facing windows where that individual seems to also need a prominent office. The planning department has a large area where they can lay down plans. The building department is in close proximity to the planning department, the conservation commission, and the health offices. There's also room for a break, kitchen, and coffee area on this floor. And these are all adjacent to the school offices on the second floor of the Ritter. The town hall sits about 30 inches above the school offices in the Ritter, and this ramp is negotiating that 30 inches. Zooming in even further, where we broke it down between where every single office is going to be, not just the colorful diagrams that we saw before. So looking at people who need individual offices, such as the town clerk, an assessor, accounts payable, and then people who can use larger offices and are also going to be public facing. So there's transaction counters in each of these offices where the treasurer will be, the town accountant will be public facing, assistant town clerk will have a public facing area, and also the registrar of voters, and then admin assistants and data collectors within the assessor's office will also have transaction counters. Also smaller private offices who can also be public facing for the Parks and Recreation or the rec director, and also the historic committee. There's offices in the back that are not necessarily along the beaten path for facilities directors and the IT department, where they can have private offices and also have a good amount of storage where they potentially need it. Moving to the upper floor, a lot of what I said before on the lower floor, where we have the transaction counters along this public facing corridor, and then also the private offices further in the back, continue here. There's also a central toilet room and MEP room on every floor, allowing for the correct amount of bathrooms and also close proximity to each individual, so nobody has to walk too far to use the restrooms.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Steve. I would add to what Stephen just said. I think that the plan, although there's a lot of pieces to this jigsaw puzzle, the primary circulation system is a very straightforward kind of cross shape in the new town hall, that, and one of those, the arms of that cross connect directly to the Ritter building. So I think that we're creating a connection among the buildings, new and old, that will be clear and self-evident to people in the building. I think it'll be fairly easy for people of Lunenburg to negotiate their way around this building without needing to look up a plan, and easy to remember where the various offices are, first floor versus second floor, old building versus new building. And one other thing I would add is that the last time we did this, we were not working with all the information that we should have been on the school program. And so the school program has now pretty much fully taken over the Ritter building, and the town offices in the town hall, the new town hall, have expanded the size of that footprint. And that's why it has gotten kind of thicker on the southern end. And quantitatively, what that means is that the footprint of the new town hall is somewhere around 10,000 square feet, which is about 20% larger than what it was last time we looked at this. But we are capturing now all of the program. And it does give me some concern about how that will be reflected in the budget. When we
I
do
want to
kind of
ask a
spend.
clarifying question on that.
Yep.
So you're saying 10,000 square foot footprint, that would be a 20,000 square foot building, is that correct?
No, I'm sorry. 10,000 square feet in total.
So
for the
5,000
new.
square foot footprint.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Have I got that right, Stephen?
Yeah, it is 10,000 square foot total, approximately 10,000 square feet total.
Okay.
Good clarification. Thanks, Michael. So before we move on to the exterior view of this building, does anybody have questions about the program and adjacencies?
Would you
in this
mind going
vehicle?
back one slide?
Yep.
This is Brian Leighton. I don't really have a question as much as just a comment. I would like to see the superintendent have a look at this and with our admin team just to make sure it makes sense on the layout of the ACE and also just the layout of her team. I think that would be vital.
Yeah, I can add in here, Brian. So I have I was going to mention this later, but it's probably relevant to mention it now. I have following this evening, Taylor and Burns are going to send me this presentation. I'm going to email that out to Carter, who's going to then distribute it to staff. I have a meeting on Wednesday morning with the town clerk, with all of the department heads, including the superintendent, and then third meeting with the historical commission because they are located on basically the 30 School Street. I think they're 10 School Street, but they're on that area and the parking lot changes would affect them. So the intent is to meet with all the department heads to review this plan, to capture all of their feedback and get that over to Taylor and Burns, Wednesday or Thursday. So that way, when we meet again in the middle of the month, that revised plan incorporates all that feedback.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions at this point? I know we're going to have some comments coming soon, but any questions at this point?
One question for nomenclature. It says executive assistant with TC, and that TC shows up a couple different times. What does that mean?
That stands for transaction counter. When we send this out, we can make sure there's an annotation that clarifies what TC is.
Okay.
I had one question, Michael, right? We would be, I think I know the answer, but just to clarify, we'd be keeping the existing lift and the existing bathrooms in the Ritter building under this plan. Is that correct?
That's currently the plan, yes.
Okay. Thanks. So I've got a bunch of feedback, but I'll reserve till we're ready to.
All right.
Yeah, great. All right then. So
Well, I'm sorry, to follow up on Greg's question, where is the existing bathroom and the existing elevator in the Ritter building. Oh, okay. All right. I got you. I was not orienting myself right when it came to.
Yeah, Stephen, we should label the elevators and the bathrooms on these plans. So that when people are looking at
Yeah, the
them,
T's obvious in the new building, and you just needed some T's in the old building.
We'll make that correct before this gets sent out further.
Thank you. Any additional questions?
And this is gonna have two separate entrances then? There's gonna be an entrance for the school, and then there's an entrance for the town? Or would people going to visit the town have to go through the ACE program to get there?
There's entries on the new town hall, so people who are visiting the new town hall can enter on the Mass Ave side here or the School Street side here. And so people who park in the center of town can take this entry in, and a lot of people who will be taking the new parking lot down School Street can enter on this side of the building here. The school, people who will be using the school functions can enter on the existing entries to the Ritter building, which are at the east side here. They don't need to travel through this town hall and through. So there's separate entries for each, but each have access from any entry.
so if the
Right.
superintendent wanted to go visit the town manager, the superintendent would go, you know, along the length of the Ritter lower floor. Well, she wouldn't have to. She could actually take the stair up to the Ritter upper floor. But if she decided to go through the Ritter lower floor, she would traverse the ACE program.
And there's a door to separate the ACE program from the rest of us.
There could be a door at the bottom of the ramp. Right there. If we wanted to like acoustically isolate. I think, I'm not sure if you are trying to create a layer of privacy or security or just acoustic separation.
I'll reserve for comments later.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yep. Okay, then I think we'd like to take you to the oh yeah, here's the plan of the meeting house. This should be familiar to you all. This has not changed a lot since last time. Stephen, you want to hit the high points on this before we...
Yeah, so the major changes we made from the last time was we defined the hearing room further and created this gallery space. So as you come up the floor, there's a 300 square foot, or come up from the first floor to the second floor, there's a 300 square foot gallery space where you can enter into the hearing room, or people who have just finished their meeting have a space to gather outside while they're getting ready to leave, so they're not loitering in the town hall meeting area, and they can actually continue on with the meeting. This also allows for the second floor to be closed off if need be to the lower floor. The lower floor has been programmed with the conference room A, B, and C. So there are conference rooms of varying sizes accommodating different meetings. We're also planning new restrooms on the first floor that are completely accessible, and potentially a new elevator on this first floor. That would allow for better transition between each floors and a new ramp on the exterior on the front face of the building so that people with othered accessibility issues can enter the building through the front door. So those are the major high points that we have.
All right, then I think I'd like to, if no one has any further comments, show you our thoughts about the outside of the building.
This is Brian. I would just add the toilet T on the second floor.
Yeah, next to cable access.
we'll make sure to do that. No problem.
Thank you.
And also the word elevator. All right. Thanks. So here's a familiar picture for you. The view of the Ritter building. And we're going to talk about architecture as a kind of visual language here, just looking at this picture. One of the distinguishing features of the Ritter building and what makes it such a, I think, strong figure in the central part of Lunenburg is it's a very powerful composition, even though it's a small building. It's got these that center architectural motif of having, you know, two columns kind of braced by big strong corners supporting a very strongly figured pediment with a circle in the middle. It's a lot of stuff there that adds up to a pretty strongly focused facade. The next slide zeroes in on those elements. And yeah, you can see it there. And it's a lot of architecture on a little building. And adding on to this is, you know, it is a challenge to make a new wing to this building that will be larger and have just as much architectural presence within the, you know, as a municipal building in the middle of Lunenburg. The town hall it's got some of the similar features, the, you know, big, quiet, kind of strong corners, and then a gathering of architectural elements in the middle, marking the entrance, with the pediment on top. And this pediment is not nearly as dentiled and ornamented as the Ritter building is. But, you know, these are just to put words onto things. You know, you've got major order of columns, 2 stories tall, and then in the middle around the entrance, kind of minor order of smaller columns that bring the scale of the building down significantly, more to the size of a person, not quite so monumental as those flat pilasters. And I'm just saying these words while looking at these pictures so that when we move into our sketches and our 3D model, we can use some of those same terms talking about things. Next slide. So this is a sketch of one approach that we thought about, and it is to create with the new town hall a kind of very strong similarity to some of the things I was just talking about with the Ritter building and the old town hall. And you know, frankly, it's pretty much, it's mimicry, it's copying, it's kind of a simple place to get started. To do that, I wouldn't want to end at this point, but it's just to get our juices going and working with some of the architecture of the neighborhood. I think it's a bit too much, but and next slide, please. This is another kind of simple approach to create municipal presence in the middle of Lunenburg with the new building. And kind of major order of 2-story tall columns. And to my eye, it's excessively monumental. It could be, you know, the First National Bank of Lunenburg or the State House of Lunenburg. I'm not sure. It's a bit much, I thought, but just showing you these things to give you a feeling for our process. It's easier to do this with pencil and paper than it is with a full-blown computer model. So one of the features of the site is it is a corner site, and that kind of singular monumental facade of the prior 2 sketches doesn't even acknowledge the fact that most people are coming to the building from School Street. And even though you look at it perhaps most oftenly from Mass Ave, but so this sketch shows the idea of having a kind of a large scale, large order of pilasters across the front of the Mass Ave facade, and then a minor order of a colonnade that comes along from School Street and interweaves with the major order of the facade. And I think this begins to get a lot more interesting and also more nuanced and a little more complicated, but it becomes, I think, a bit more of a richer mix of things going on than the prior two sketches. And next sketch, please. Yeah, so now in this one, I just removed that larger order of the facade and put the colonnade or arcade colonnade, really, wrapping around from School Street all the way across to the front porch as a kind of bringing down the scale of the building and making the building more welcoming, and also making it more of an active corner building. And just to give you a flavor for, you know, what I mean by this kind of colonnade, I'm going to show you a couple of photographs of colonnade that we did in, this is at First Parish Concord, which is on the National Historic Registry, and this is a new addition. The new entrance has this, they called it a loggia, but it's really a colonnade with a glass roof so that the space underneath is not dark and shadowy, but is sunlit. And the columns and the beams are, they're not pretending to be Roman or Greek. They're structural columns, nicely proportioned, carrying a beam that is actually a structural beam, and rafters with their ends poking out to give the detail that you get with dentils, but not just ornamental, but, you know, active components of the building structure. And this is on an addition to a very prominent Massachusetts building. In fact, as I said, National Historic Register property. This happens to be where the first constitutional convention was held in 1790 or so. And the architecture of that colonnade is just an example of, you know, what I would have in mind for when we talk about putting a colonnade around the new town hall. Next slide. So in the prior sketch, I think that the new town hall was somewhat lacking in having a strong central organizing feature, like in that photograph of the Ritter entrance. When I talked about the columns and then the arch and the circle over, it's a lot of stuff. And I think that we need a strong figure on the face of the new town hall to counterbalance everything that's going on with the old Ritter building and have just as much municipal presence in the center of Lunenburg. And an arch certainly packs a lot of that. So this was just a sketch trying to like recover some of that focused energy in the architecture of the new building. And but I missed the wraparound porch. So the next sketch was a kind of a combination of all of that, and that was the launching point for what we chose to make a model of today, to show you in 3 dimensions how this might all look combined together. So I'm showing you these sketches as I kind of peek into our process here in-house, how we work, and those are my own sketches. I can't draw on the computer like Stephen and Marley can. They're much more gifted in those skills. So with this, I'm going to now ask Marley to show you with the three-dimensional computer-generated model, what that would look like in the round.
All right.
Yeah, so here's a kind of three-dimensional view, and we'll orbit around slowly. But you can see that kind of connector piece that's serving both as a way to make up the height difference in the floors between the existing Ritter and the new town hall, as well as to serve as some additional programmatic space on the south face. The front entry that you'll see on the Mass Ave face has that kind of wraparound porch starting with kind of mirrored structural column lines on the facade itself, and that continues along the School Street face as well. So that can be a place where people can gather or take their lunch on the nicer days. And I also wanted to draw your attention to that kind of front area of the existing Ritter that previously had a set of staircases. Just as a kind of very sketchy modeling attempt, we wanted to show some sort of landscape feature that could take shape there. And this is very early on in that process, but we'd welcome your feedback on that as well, trying to reimagine what that central space could be. And then we just kind of have roughly modeled in the back the PACC building. That will be kind of a separate vote, as we're aware, in the future. That's generally the adjacency and shape, while still allowing at least a one vehicle lane access route behind the new town hall and existing Ritter.
So a picture's worth a million words here. And so rather than keep talking, I think we can now, having played our cards, invite you all to share your thoughts. Love to hear what you have to say about what we've just shown you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for this level of detail and for this presentation. I think that, the last couple minutes where you were kind of guiding us through the sketches, showing us kind of the thought process, I imagine we may come back to that somewhat in this conversation. But I want to start with committee members. I know that members from the public may have some thoughts as well. But I want to start with the committee members so that way we can identify kind of what our thoughts are here. Mr. Roy.
Thanks for the hot seat. Yeah, I wrote down a few things. So I think first, so I wasn't here at the last meeting on the 6th. I think it was the 16th. I am sorry to have missed that that initial presentation, but I did watch it. So I did get the flavor of the presentation, as well as the flavor of the comments that the committee members gave you. And I guess my initial take here is that it feels to me like you did a really good job listening, and you took a lot of the information and encapsulated it into this updated plan. And I'm in the industry, and I know that 2 or 3 weeks is like 2 hours. So I think that you did a lot of work in a short amount of time, and I really appreciate that. I think it to me, I think there was a huge step forward. So just talking about, I tried to make notes as you were going through. So you're on this slide here, but I have some comments, I guess, about the entire presentation. So just talking about the new town hall here, which is the building you're looking at. I think the adjacencies look really good to me. I think that some of the comments with where needing the key offices such as the superintendent and the town manager being in prominent positions in the building were addressed. I know that there was a significant delta in what you had for square footage for the school department, and it seems to me like I didn't tally up the numbers, but it seems to me like we have a much more robust program on that part of things. It's not surprising to me that that takes up the entire Ritter footprint. It's a pretty big, robust program and an important program for the town, for sure. So I really like that. I really like the fact that one of the things that I think was I'll say troubling about the initial presentation, and I know it was an initial presentation, was the length of that corridor. I'm not an architect, but I understand we need to have some length there so that we can get the right ramp and things to work. I think that this plan here does a lot to shrink that, minimize that, which I really like. I think that that I think you said it was a 30-inch delta in the floors. That seems reasonable to me. It doesn't seem like we're going to be having to do a huge obviously we'd love it to be on the same level, but it's just not the way the site is. Right? It's not the way the building was built. So it seems to me that we can overcome that. So I like that. I like the fact that you're addressing the old entry, the front entry that where the steps were removed. I like the fact that you may not have that completely thought out yet, but I think that's really important. I think that anybody that drives by this thing now just says, what the heck happened to the front steps of the building? So I think that we would be really remiss if we didn't do a good job with that in some fashion. And even if they're ornamental, put something back in there that is doesn't make it sort of closes the wound, if you will. So I think that's good. Let's see. I think that a couple of comments, I think, on the floor plan. It was mentioned, I think, in one of the questions. I think that building separation or the ability to separate portions of the building is going to be important. And, I know that we're probably not at that point in the discussion, but being able to separate off the ACE program from the town offices will probably be important. Being able to separate off publicly accessible spaces from the such as like bathrooms for town events could be important. If there's a way we can sort of think through being able to separate that out. I think that those kind of things might be important. I think you addressed it, but I think making sure that we have counters, transaction counters for the various folks. I think that might be a little challenging on the second floor with the planning and the conservation office. We just want to make sure we think that through. And I think that Michael Ray having a conversation, if you want to make a note of this, Michael Ray, that I think that we want to make sure we get buy-in from all those land use departments when you meet with them, just to make sure we're not doing something that's counterintuitive to the way they operate. Let's see. I like the massing a little bit better. So I'm always impressed with architects' ability to come up with a lot of different facades. I feel like if I was going to draw a picture, it would look one way, and that's about all. So I mean, I don't have a huge input on the massing, but I think I like it. I like the look of it better than. I know the one you prepared last time was really preliminary, but this seems to me to set off with the porch feel, with the wraparound porch feel. I think I kind of prefer that. I don't really know what all these different motifs mean, but I'll kind of leave that up to the experts, and maybe others on the committee have insight into that. But I really like the wraparound porch. I think it draws people in. I wonder if there's a opportunity to make the 1965 or 1960s edition when we I don't know what we're gonna do to the facade of that thing, but you know, that's not as historically. I think I heard Mr. Scalabrini said last time, it's not as historically significant as the actual footprint of the Ritter building. And so maybe there's an opportunity, you know, when we're replacing windows in that building that we can do in a manner that kind of offsets the new structure. So it kind of doesn't look like we're completely lopsided, but we have something that relates on both sides, if you will. Again, I'm not exactly sure how you'd go about doing that, but just the thought I had. And then on the town hall, on the, excuse me, on the meeting house side, I was really happy on three fronts there. I think the three things that are key for me is, well, it really relates to accessibility. Thank you. I think that the ability for handicapped folks to enter this building through the front door should be like number one in our priority. And I'm really happy to see that we got that on this. I think that we really got to do that. If we're going to renovate this building and do anything, we got to make sure it's accessible to everybody. And I really like how we did that here. I think that a modernized elevator system, I know it's expensive, but I think if we deliver a building that has a renovated building that has a makeshift lift in it, I just don't see the benefit in that. I think that what you're proposing here with an updated elevator, an updated bathroom facility, modernized building, so that from the outside this thing looks like it's historical. We want to preserve that. We want to preserve the look and feel. But inside, when people walk in, they're wowed with the fact, wow, we did a nice job with this. We got modern facilities. We got an operable, functional elevator. We can get a stroller in there. You know, we got handicap, but we also have people that come in. It was just today, I think I saw someone coming in with a stroller into town hall. You know, it's entrance to the front door is key, updated elevator is key, and the bathroom facility. So the only comment I had is on that. I think I was half paying attention when you were mentioning it. Are you keeping the bathroom on the second floor of this building?
Yes, that's the plan.
I wonder if there's a way you can we maybe we could put a vestibule in it or something, like a double door or something. I just wonder, you know, if there's a way we can get a little bit more isolation. So if someone's in there, they're not, you know, uh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
I understand what you're saying.
You know, like a little entryway where you go into a door and then you got another door. I don't know. Just a thought. I leave that up to you folks. You're much more adept at that than me, but that's just a thought. But really, I'd like to thank your team. I think to me, this seems like a huge step forward. I really like most of what you have come up with here. I know it's a big program. It's a big building, right? You presented that. It's a 10,000 square foot building. There's a lot that we're asking to pack into this thing on the town hall side, at least. And to me, I think we made a huge step here. So thanks.
Thank you, Greg. I'll go through the committee members. I'm not going to call anyone by name. I know that Dave, I know you were traveling last time, so I'll turn to you, Mr. Blatt. Then I'm just generally going to open up to the rest of the committee members, whoever wants to talk. But Mr. Blatt?
Okay, helps if I go off mute, but thank you, Mr. Jeffries. If we could, can I go back to the upper level shot of the new building? Okay, so my biggest thing though is that to me the most prominent part is the way this is set up is that the main entrances that people would end up using are going to be School Street and the side entrance, and not necessarily Mass Ave. Because you talked about having parking over towards School Street, if that's correct. So if I was going to have a Mass Ave, I'd love to be able to see us be able to use that special service assistance area and utilize that as an entrance of some sort. because she talked about having the stairs. It's the most prominent feature of the building. And to me, that would be, I'm really trying to preserve that architect and that prominent feeling. And that would allow me to anchor this town hall on Mass Ave more.
Dave,
So
can you clarify that a little bit? I'm a little confused by what you're saying. Are you saying adding in stairs on the first floor?
So I'm adding, we talked earlier about having a set, that there was originally a set of stairs there. On Town Hall, on Mass Ave, on the Ritter Building, I'm sorry, in the Ritter Building, there was a set of stairs right there where it says Special Services Assistance. And I'd like to be able to see that as like, whether it's a lobby, entryway, something, and be able to shut off the side entrance that we have with that small, ridiculous parking lot on Lancaster Ave side. So that's just one thought, because to me, that's our prominent entrance to this building. And if anybody was going to enter from Mass Ave, that's kind of the area I would look at. It would also allow me to provide less architectural interest on the wing, knowing that the School Street entrance was going to be the prominent entrance on that side of the building. So if I was going to enter for the schools, I would enter through Mass Ave. If I'm entering through for the town, I'm entering through School Street. So that's just one thought. The second thought was on the large window in Ritter, on this upper floor of Ritter. There's the large window. Well, it's going to be the first floor of Ritter. There's the large window with all the little sections in it in that superintendent's office. I'd like to see that split into two windows to mimic what you had done in the rest of the building. So if you go to the picture of the outside of the building, the front facade.
You mean a sketch or a photo?
The sketch.
Yep.
And keep going. You had the one with the colonnade. Yeah. No, right there. So you see, if you look at the old Ritter, it has those two it has the windows on either side of it. If you look at the new wing, you have the windows on either side. I'd like to see us get rid of that big heat sink of a window there and make that into two smaller windows with a divide. It's annoying to be in that building during sunset with that window, to be in that room. And I'd like to see us just, eliminate that a little bit more. The other thing, I mean, for what you guys have done, this is fantastic. I really, I like the flow. It's nice. I do believe that we should be able to have some kind of separation on the ACE program from the public on that. Something with that on the end of that ramp, whether there's a door or something, but I don't really see a need for the public to be going into the ACE programs area, right there. And I would like to see a little bit more prominent entrance on School Street, just to kind of welcome people more to the entrance that they're going to probably use 90% of the time for Town Hall. But other than that, great job on things. I like that the new Town Hall, the new meeting building is very simple. I like the open concept. I echo Mr. Roy's comments with the bathroom. Maybe just even turning the door and putting it across from the elevator would make it so that you don't, somebody has a little bit of privacy when they're going in and out, but that'd be fine too. So just moving that door to the other side. Or maybe you can enlarge the bathroom and move the door to the other side.
Great. So Dave, from your comments, I'm just writing a couple of notes for us to continue the discussion on. The stairs to the Ritter front, the superintendent window, and then the prominence of School Street. So I'm just noting them so that way we can continue to discuss those. We can give clear guidance in one voice to the architectural team.
You got it. No problem. That's it.
All right.
I'm all set then. Thank you, Mr. Evans.
All right. Let's go through the rest of the committee. I'll go last. Anyone else want to offer any thoughts?
This is Brian. I would echo a lot of what Greg Roy had stated. I agreed with much of what he said. Uh, the one concern I had was the wraparound porch, though. I don't know if it aesthetically adds to the building. I really liked the sketches, the earlier sketches too. I felt like it kind of flowed with, like you had said, the town and the historic aspect, like this one and the one before too. But I think the wraparound, when we started seeing the wraparound porches, I think that just maybe took away from it. But I'd be curious what other people thought. But that was my only concern. But I did see, I felt like there was a lot of improvement, and he definitely listened to the committee and made a lot of improvements. So I appreciate that.
All right. Anyone else from the committee? It looks like Tom, Mr. Gray.
Yeah, I just I got to the meeting late. I apologize, but I might have missed some stuff. But I just want to Greg and Dave had said a lot of the things. The giant window at the first edition on Ritter that looked at. I think the stairs on the original Ritter building to be somehow either replicated or would be great. Also, if you look at it, we're creating a kind of a little square here, a little area, little that probably could be used, in the spring, in the summer, in the fall, and those stairs could be where people sit. So I think that I don't not, because I'm not as good as reading these things, to make sure that people aren't running around the building going, where do I go in? Where do I look? Where do I go in? Because of if School Street's where they're going to park, they're going to walk all the way around to front to Mass Ave. There needs to be clear to them that that's where they're going. Many people go to the building for the first time or only go very infrequently. It's going to be something that we need to make sure the signage is good. I do like that the school area is on one side. So if that parking on Lancaster is still there, and I don't know how much parking the school people take, but they could go in through that building and not bother anybody else or not be bothered by anybody else. And the main town hall type of city functions could be done on the School Street entrance or the Mass Ave entrance, rather. Mass Ave entrance would be better. I think that would be good. So I don't have an opinion on the on some of the architectural stuff. They all look pretty nice to me. But I do agree with the bathroom up in the second floor of the current town hall. That probably would be nice to get that more private. And the only other thing on the first floor of the new town meeting is if there could be thoughts about making them adjustable, because 3 meeting rooms seems like a lot for the town. We might need 1 or 2 at any particular point. Plus, we have the big meeting room upstairs. So you could move things around and maybe make it. It's not going to be very expensive for us to do anything if we decide 10 years from now, oh, the new thing is now this, and we can use that first floor to do that, whatever it is. So making it more, functional in the future would be one of the things. If you could think about that, how to do that, that would be nice. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gray. Who do we have left? Is Christina? Yeah, Christina. Or anyone else who wants to talk?
Michael Ray, this is Brian again. Just to add on what Tom Gray had stated, how at the Ritter building, that between those buildings is going to be that green space, a lot of gatherings. I think that would be an ideal place to look at for where you could try to find an external bathroom, maybe on the left, straight ahead, or on the right, but trying to think creatively of where we might be able to have access to bathrooms for that space where people are in that green space. Is there a way to connect the bathroom externally, say on a day where the town hall might be closed? So that might be something to think about.
Okay.
So I was just going to mention that similar to some of the concerns about closing off the ACE program, I feel like the one great thing about these designs is, you know, aside from going to the town office during the week, like on a after hours when the ACE program would be used, the town wouldn't necessarily be there because if they're meeting, they're going to be in the meetings across the street, keeping us separated from them. So I think that's a really great thing. The only thing I was kind of going back and forth on was the superintendent because she's so far at the end. But the upside to that is she's at the end, so you don't have to go through the programs. And she could honestly, it probably might even be easier for her to leave the building to re-enter the building on a nice day and then cut through it. And she gets the privacy. I think it was really thoughtfully laid out and done, and I really appreciate the outside of the building. I think this is like a complete 360 from 2 weeks ago, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments from the committee? Who do we miss? Mr. Allison.
Hey, yeah, so I want to echo the majority of everybody that said that the response to our responses the first time have been phenomenal. I think you guys really addressed everything that I had brought up and everything I can think of everybody else brought up in a very workable, meaningful fashion. The added square footage, it is a concern on the cost end, but I think that what we kind of need is more square footage. As far as the existing lift and the Ritter and the vault and the town hall, I would not recommend anybody, I don't think anybody would recommend reusing them and putting them in a new multi-million-dollar building because the door doesn't close on the vault and hasn't for years. And I don't know that lift in the town in the Ritter is even usable anyway. I don't know when the last time it was used. I know that the one in the town hall is quite sketchy. Replacing that is a good idea. I'm still not seeing any reuse of the basement in the existing town hall. I don't know if that's pushback from the powers that be that don't bring it up in meetings or because we spent a bunch of money on a remediation of something, but that's a big, huge space down there. And we really should at least reinforce stuff if we're going to be building on top of it. So being able to utilize that area at least for storage of stuff, I would think would be a good idea to look at. There's access to it. I like the farmer's porch idea on the new town hall, but I like the look and the feel of it, but I'm not sure that the usability can afford the loss of the additional space on the second floor. I mean, that's the majority of my comments this time. I think you guys, again, I want to repeat, you did a great job addressing the comments that I had last time. Thank you.
All right, Tony, then I think you're the last member, and then I'll go.
I'm concerned about what the people who are going to work in here think of the floor plan. And I think that we've gone pretty far down the road here without having input from either the interim time manager and someday maybe a real-time manager and Dr. Burnham. And I think that we need to get their input ASAP, along with people like the assistant town clerk, the town clerk, town accountant, and make sure that what we're laying out here is really going to work for the town of Lunenburg. I mean, I think that there's a lot of stuff on these plans that needs input from the people who are actually going to occupy the building. And I think just as an example, where the town manager's office is, the town manager has to go through the assistant town manager's office space to get to his office or her office, depending on what happens with our upcoming decision on a town manager. So those are the kinds of things that, really need to get input from the people who are going to work in the building. And while we certainly have a lot at stake as committee members, I think the people who work in there have even more at stake in terms of the layout and the flow. And I think that the sooner we get that input, the better off this process is going to be, because the last thing that we want to do is go back to to Taylor and Burns and say, whoa, wait, we got some input here from folks that are going to work in the building that's going to dramatically change the flow. The other problem that I continue to have, and I'm a dissenter on the design. I don't like it, and I think there's a couple of factors as to why I don't like it. One is we've created the Rambler. I mean, this is a classic New England Rambler, where you got big pieces, little pieces, and maybe some other shaped pieces. This reminds me of the farmhouse that's not too far from me on Northfield Road, where you've got a conglomeration of spaces. And we've managed to create a town hall complex with that Rambler look. And maybe that's appropriate for New England, but it's not for me. And one of the contributing factors, as I mentioned in the meeting that we had a couple weeks ago, is the fact that we have a design challenge with two different levels, and we're trying to create an access point into the new space that's going to be at the same level as the 65 edition. And that then contributes to having corridors. And corridors cost money, and they need to be avoided from my perspective. They cost money to build, and then they're going to cost money for us to maintain, to heat, to clean, with other than just gaining access, to the lower level and the upper level of an existing building. Whereas if we had blown up the addition, the 65 addition, and even make that a 3-story addition, I think that it would have been able to satisfy our space needs. And then we could have used an elevator to get to the interim levels of Ritter. I have two more issues. One is, we have an alley on the south side of Ritter / the 65 edition, and I'm not sure how that will, materialize given the new piece coming into the alley area. I haven't seen any indication as to where we would have convenient handicap parking. And then lastly, the crosswalk being moved to the west is going to be problematic for the town, because you can't have two crosswalks that close to a signal. You have a crosswalk at the signalized intersection, and then you're going to have a crosswalk, just to the west, that's not in compliance with the manual and uniform traffic control devices. I think that the state would have a hard time with that. You would never want to have that second additional crosswalk not be timed with the crosswalk that currently exists and the traffic signal that currently exists. Which once again supports my position that we should have really focused on finding that space with the 65 edition area versus creating something that's so much further down from the 65 edition, creating, this U-shaped structure. So, count me as a dissenter, but I really think that, I'm one against others who have a different point of view, and I understand that's the value of it being on a committee. But I really think that we need to get the input from Dr. Burnham and Carter. That's my comments, Michael.
Thank you, Tony. I'll provide my comments as well. So we are again meeting with all department heads, including the superintendent, town clerk, and historical commission. I'm meeting with them on Wednesday morning. First meeting is at 8, next one's at 8:30, and the next one's at 9:15. And so, it is 3 meetings kind of back to back to capture all that input. Once these designs are provided to me, they're going to be emailed out. So that way tomorrow, they're going to be reviewed by the different departments. This is an email that the town manager sent out and coordinated, I believe it was a couple of weeks ago. And so that way everyone has the time kind of allocated to meet as a team and go over kind of what their feedback is, and then provide that feedback up through the department heads, who will then report it up. So generally comments though, I'll start with the one area that Mr. Tony Scullenbrini said that I fully agree with him on, which is the crosswalk. I think that after looking into this in more detail, I think there's going to be a lot of conflict with with getting, because Mass Ave is a state road, we don't have the authority to just do it. And I think there's going to be a lot of challenges with them. And then also identifying that we're not fully in compliance with complete streets in the center of town. And so, adding in a crosswalk may trigger additional costs. So I am of the opinion now that we need to just think of the crosswalk being in its existing location for most people. So let's see. The other comments generally that I wanted to make was there was someone, I know that Mr. Blatt made reference to, kind of going back to our original roots on the Ritter building. And so I just want to make reference to, the mass law as it relates to accessibility. And so, 521 CMR, which is the Architectural Access Board, specifically section 25.1, it says, all public entrances of a building or tenancy in a building shall be accessible. Public entrances are any entrances that are not solely service entrances, loading entrances, or entrances restricted to employee use only. So from my perspective, if there's no path ahead in which we can add a stairwell back to the front of Ritter without also adding a very significant ramp, it will not have the same look. And I think that with that very significant ramp at the front of Ritter, I don't know if I see the value in that. So I don't know if I'm not in agreement with touching that entrance because I think that a significant ramp in addition to a stairwell, I think it's going to eat into what is currently a pretty prominent public meeting space. Generally speaking, I think that this design is amazing. I think it's a really good, smart design. I think that 30 School Street clearly is going to be the primary parking lot. Most people will access the building from 30 School Street. And so having that entrance along the first floor makes a lot of sense. I think that the utilization, trying to minimize the hallways here and maximizing every hallway, ensuring that it touches an office, that there's a specific use for it. I think that that was really good planning. I don't agree on the windows and the 68 edition. From my lens, I do think there is value in having a portion of a building that, when the town got together, needed this extension. It was the best we could do at the time. And I think that the history of Lunenburg when it comes to buildings, with the exception of Ritter, is repurposing old buildings. When we go through our historical books on the town, and when we used to have multiple schools all over small neighborhood schools, then we would build bigger ones and reuse the wood and kind of make them bigger. But so I think in our history here, we have a really strong history of repurposing. And so I think I like the 1968 edition to the Ritter building. I like the window, the way it looks, and I think that the way that you've presented the new layout, where you kind of replicate in many ways that window and then add two new ones to the side of it, I think that that was tasteful to kind of balance out the building. One of the things that I think we need to stay true to is we need to stay true to in this process what we intended to do here. We did not intend to create public bathrooms in the center of town. So if that's something that we want to do, that is new, that is a new request, that is not part of the mission we've been tasked to accomplish. It is to find a way, our charge is very clear, it is to find a way to consolidate school, municipal, and community uses. We did not identify prior to now bathrooms. In my own experience, public bathrooms invite problems. And so it is, in my view, it is very necessary to have public bathrooms in buildings that can be opened or unopened and access limited. If you think of a 24/7 bathroom to the public, I would just invite you to go see one. Go to any community that has one, check them out, and it will tell you why it's not the best idea for Lunenburg, in my opinion. But I do recognize that there is a need for public bathrooms. I believe personally that when the select board works on 30 School Street, that may be the time to address it. We have an existing septic system that's already over there. And so tying into that septic system, in my opinion, may be the best thing. But again, that's out of the scope in my view of what we're trying to do. But overall, if we can go back to the renderings, the sketches that you provided, I just wanted to comment on a couple of them, on two of them. So not this one, it was probably not this one, this one. I liked this sketch. I liked this sketch in combination with the final design. You know, I think that this does have a more prominent kind of feel to it. You know, I think maybe it is a little bit much, but I'm very interested in the rest of the committee's opinions on this one. But I think a mix between this and where you eventually landed may have that prominent look, that community focused look. I also want to just comment that I think it was really tasteful on the building connections, that, you know, Ritter Building is distinctively identified here. It has very clear and, as you identified, strong, prominent architectural features. And I think that a tasteful new town hall with connections is important. My final comment, if we can go to the floor plan of the lower level and the upper level. So looking at the lower level, you know, in the course of the day, when we think about someone coming in from into the Ritter Building on the Ritter Building entrance, most people, I would assume, that come in that entrance way would likely not cross through the ACE space, because most of those offices on the school side are on the second floor. I do think, however, it could be beneficial that, you know, this is a necessary pass through, but I do think that doors would be helpful here. Separating out the ACE program on both ends, the end that connects over to the town hall and the end that kind of comes down maybe the top of the stairs or comes down the stairs. I do think that this program should be able to be isolated, and that you would have to open a door to push through it. And then thinking about most people utilizing the town hall, if you come in off of School Street, that, you know, with the elevator being there, with the staircase being there, I think that there would be adequate signage that can indicate at that area, like, you know, access to the school department, take second floor. You know, and that can be overcome in my opinion, but I think that the layout to me makes a lot of sense. I think it's really tasteful how we have these connecting hallways here. And then again, I want to highlight the historic space, which is historic office, which is not office we currently have, and then also the office that we're calling the state rep offices. You know, these two offices in this building really are future proofing. That, you know, they are offices that can be utilized for additional needs as the town grows. And so, you know, and then also in combination with the office space that is being retained in town hall, that, you know, we are building this out based on known staff. Right now, we don't even have IT personnel, you know, staff that we believe we're going to need, but we also have an element of future proofing here, where essentially we have 2 offices in this building and 1 or 2 offices in the meeting house that allows for kind of that organic expansion of programming. So I really like those features. Thank you for all the work that you guys have done to get us to this point. Again, I know that over the next couple of days, it's going to be a sprint to get some feedback. I do expect that when we think about the town accountant and the tax collector, I'm expecting feedback from them that they want to be in the same office area. Which then would probably be a swap. I know that, you know, facility directors indicated, you know, not necessarily wanting to be at the front entrance of the building, but based on the fact that there's more square footage on the back end here, it may end up we may come back with feedback that we may want to kind of flip-flop the footprint here. Because again, I've already received that feedback that they already work in the same space, and I think that there's a request to kind of continue that. Mr. Roy.
Yeah, just a couple quick things in follow-up to people, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair.
Not at all.
One thing is, I'm no traffic engineer. But I would give the chance of a secondary crosswalk across Mass Ave about a snowball's chance in hell. to be permitted with Mass DOT. I just don't think I don't think it's gonna happen. We would have to completely rethink that intersection and we don't want to pay for it, I think. So I think those comments are really valid. And I had something else and it totally has escaped my mind, but that I wanted to, I guess, reinforce that sentiment. That's just based on my experience with permitting with Mass DOT in the last 5 years.
Okay. Again, we have some discussion points here: stairs, addition, the window, the superintendent, prominence of School Street, wraparound porch, exterior bathrooms. I added in a note about the vault and the basement. I want to go to anyone from the public who'd like to offer any comments or thoughts as well. Mr. Blatt, if I can ask you to assist, or Brian, I need to step away for a couple of minutes. But if we can just capture some of the feedback from the public, if there is any, and then if I'm still away, if we can start the discussion on some of those points that have been brought up. All right, anyone from the public?
Ms. Brzezowski?
Hey, thanks, Brian. I had a question. So for the Ritter building, is that the old elevator that's currently there, or is the renovation gonna put in a new elevator?
We're showing the old elevator, which is I think it's called the Lula lift, limited use, limited access. That's what we're showing. We're getting pretty strong indications here that doesn't work in its current state of affairs. So we certainly look at replacing that, but that's what we're showing. Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure that's gonna be ideal for the ACE program, but that's gonna be up to the school system. Anyway, it's a public meeting. So Laura Brzezowski, 21 Francis Ave. I am speaking as a member of the public and not as a member of the school committee. But I did want to ask about the elevator. So I had questions about the floor plan. There's things like records and the vault. There are a bunch of offices without windows that are on the internal, but then things like records and the vault are on exterior walls with a window.
It's a good point. We are moving pretty quickly with program and building configuration, and I would be the last person to say that we got it right here. I'm especially interested to hear what people who are going to be in this building say about this plan. I was also wondering, Parks and Recs person, probably outdoor oriented individual.
Yeah, I was going to point out, so two of the offices you have without windows are the Conservation Commission and Parks and Rec.
Yep.
While you've got records and vault on exterior walls and IT storage on exterior walls. So it just, I know things are going to switch around. That might be something to consider.
It's a very good point. Yep.
Those are not the people you want to put without a window. Those are not employees who don't want windows.
Exactly.
Okay. And just a suggestion as a member of a public, for the break room, this isn't the plan with the break room that's why it's not, never mind. So the break room's on the upper floor. Never mind that. I was gonna say if the break room could have a door to the lawn, but that's a dumb idea on the second floor, so never mind on that. Yeah, okay. Never mind on that, because that would have been convenient for employees to just be able to walk out on the lawn. I really like the way that the plan incorporates the like a nice lawn and kind of hugs the area. How far, so this plan doesn't show the road. How close is this to the road? Is it only a few feet out from the 1965 edition?
It's a few feet out. We need to really focus on that very carefully, because right now the property line is not to be confused with the area that's paved and looks like road today. There is an area of pavement where School Street meets Mass Ave that appears to be road, but it's actually Lunenburg property that we need for the footprint of the new addition. And so we are aware that we're getting close to property lines, we're getting close to setback limits. All of that needs a little more focus than we were able to give it for tonight's meeting.
Oh, yeah, okay. For the meeting hall, is there a place designated for executive session during meetings? I know that currently during meetings, usually the break room is utilized, the break room to the right of the stage. That's
We
right.
we're maintaining those two spaces
Okay, it's labeled,
left and right of the stage.
yeah, it's labeled.
The one that is stage right, if you're looking at the stage to the right hand side, some of that is going to be eaten up by the new elevator. The new elevator will have a larger footprint than the existing lift.
I have a question about that.
Yep, Mr.
I don't know who's chairing the meeting now.
Yeah, I'm
That's all
back.
right. Okay.
Could I ask our distinguished member of the select board, you folks actually re-adjourn to a different room for executive session?
No, when we have executive
Oh.
sessions, we stay in the primary room.
But you kick everybody else out.
Correct.
The
All right,
school
but
committee does use that storage room, the 90 square foot
the
storage
school
room.
committee does
They do.
The storage
for
room up
executive
there,
session?
Yes.
Greg, so what we use the storage room for now is what we use the storage room now is for most of the meetings, they keep like meeting materials, the name tags, other things. So, I think part of the thought here, and I know I had this conversation with Taylor and Burns, was that there's a need to kind of have meeting storage space. Assuming that the building gets opened up to AA meetings, they typically have materials that they need to store, things like that.
But the school committee re-adjourns to a different spot
Yes.
for executive session?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this concerns about microphones being on.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's what, because I've never been in an executive session.
Yeah, do
I
other
just-
groups do that too? So that's my concern. I assumed, I assumed the select
Well,
board did that too,
but-
because of security, concerns.
But do
about
you think that the one of the conference rooms on the first floor would be a really good fit for that?
As well as the question would be my question is we have these offices, you have office on the second floor and office A. Who are these offices for?
So
Shouldn't those be conference rooms?
So currently, I can answer you, Mr. Blatten, and I know if Laura still has comments and questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry
I don't
to.
wanna
Go
take
for it.
away.
Nope, this is what it's.
Yep. So
I'm-
office A, if you think about how wide this is, when you come into town hall, if anyone, I don't know if anyone's ever gone in, if you go into the town clerk's office, this is what is currently the office of what is it called? I'm blanking on the name, the voting folks. Registrars.
Registrar.
So it's the office of the registrar. It's a bunch of files, a bunch of records. It's the same kind of narrowness of the stairwell. So, it looks as though historically there could have been a stairwell here and that it was removed and replaced with a small office. So it really is a non-functional meeting space. You also have we believe to be structural walls between that and the conference room B. And so that's why this space kind of remains as a potential office space. I think realistically, it's probably going to be storage, but it has that function. The vault that's identified here is there's no plan to change the vault. That it will remain in place with no modification, and it won't be utilized, but it will still be there.
By the way, could you use that as a conference room? The vault?
Or an office,
Um,
or an
uh,
office.
I think it's tiny, but
Okay, I mean,
Mr. Chair, this was the other thing I was gonna say, is that that's the other thing I like about this plan, is that it's future-proofed. Because if in 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, we realize, geez, we don't use conference room A, but we need 760 square feet of extra space for a department, we have a spot for it, right? So, doing a good job renovating this building, modernizing the building, gives us future proofing that's not in the town hall, granted, but that we have in town space. So that was another thing that I liked about this plan, is that, the 760 square foot space is roughly the size of what we're going to be giving to the town manager and the planning board. That's a good size space. That's a lot of space. But, you could put somebody in there, if we needed to in the future.
Laura, did you have any other comments?
I do. So I definitely agree with Mr. School-Brini point about the 1965 addition as being a good location.
I will say, Laura,
I
Mr.
know.
Secretary brought it up last week. The committee voted on that we are not looking to move the location.
Yep, I know. It's just this plan, it's very rambling, and as a member of the public looking at it, when I'm walking in, it's a little bit confusing as far as when you're going to be finding an office. We're going to have to be very aggressive with signage. It's a little bit confusing. I'm a little bit disappointed. Now, I wasn't asking for bathrooms 24/7, but as far as bathroom access when there are events on the lawn or in the center of town, as far as a foyer or inside a set of doors, so that the public can have bathrooms that we can just unlock one set of doors and have bathroom access and then lock it again after the event. And so the entire town hall wouldn't be open, but there would be a set of Lunenburg bathrooms in the center of town available. Not like 24/7 bathrooms, but bathrooms that could be open during events. And I'm a little disappointed that that's not in there. I know that I've been talking about that for a while. So I'm a little disappointed about that. I also think it's lacking in a strong architectural feature reminiscent of a town hall, like the classic big columns reminiscent of a town hall. Like outside our current town hall, or something that harkens back to that. I think it needs something strong and unifying that catches the eye and marks it as a town hall. So that's all.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank
Do we have
you.
any other comments from the public? Okay. All right, let's kind of walk through some of these things that came up in the comments that we've heard, and let's try to address them one at a time, so that way we can come up with clear guidance here for the architectural team. Let's first start with the sketches, if we may, that you provided for us. And I do know, Robert, as I was watching who was coming in the meeting, unfortunately, I think that a couple of members of the public joined in toward the tail end of that presentation you were providing. But if you wouldn't mind giving us a very brief, I hate to ask you to repeat yourself, but if you wouldn't mind giving us kind of a brief overview of what you said previously, so that way we can just engage this conversation about what comes next, and starting with kind of those features on the Ritter itself.
Sure. Happy to do that. Steve, could you push the slides back to the photos of the Ritter building and the town hall? Yeah. So I began with a few remarks about the architectural features of these buildings to first acknowledge, the architectural quality that is there in the middle of Lunenburg, and I think marks your town center with a real sense of being there. And the Ritter building, you, even though it's a fairly small building, kind of punches above its weight architecturally because of that center motif of having the two ionic columns kind of framed by big strong corners, carrying a very ornamented pediment with the dentils and a circle window in the middle, and that square opening framing an arched kind of round top door configuration. It's a lot of architecture packed into a fairly small package, and I think it, you know, centers that building very strongly, and it makes for an architectural challenge to add on to such a building. And when you go to the next slide, you can see some of the same features with the town hall. Even though it's a very different building, completely different vintage, it also has a lot of architectural detail in the center of the composition, with kind of big corner, you know, quiet, calm, strong corners, a tall order of columns that span from the plinth or the base all the way up to the entablature, 2 stories tall, and then a secondary minor order of columns around the entrance itself, which draws down the scale and makes it very approachable. So it kind of combines monumentality and human scale all in the same composition. And so you know, I wanted to talk about those things to just also introduce terminology. And when we begin to think about adding on to the Ritter building, the first take was to try to capture some of those qualities of the Ritter in the town hall that I just mentioned. And it, you know, to my eye, this is just it mimics characteristics without very much originality, and but it's an easy place to start, and so that's where we began thinking about what an addition might look like. 2-story columns, big strong corners, kind of a punch out void in the middle for the entrance. And then the next sketch introduced, you know, a 4-column portico, quite a bit of monumentality, an excessive amount, I would say, for this building, but it is a very strong presence. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any real recognition that it's a building on a corner and that most folks are going to be approaching it from the other side. And so I began to look at the idea of a minor order colonnade coming around on School Street and kind of weaving in through that larger order of the primary facade. And so you're getting the monumentality as well as the human scale combined together into the same composition. It becomes more complicated and nuanced, and this would be more, it would take a lot of study to get this exactly right in terms of proportion and detail, but it's a kind of richer mix of things. And I think it also acknowledges that the building is on a corner. It's not in the middle like the original Ritter building is, it's to the side, and that many of the people who come into this building will be coming in through the side door. So it to me, it acknowledges the reality of the site while also striving for a municipal presence on the site in the middle of Lunenburg. Next sketch kind of makes that colonnade more foreground, and the kind of monumental order of big columns is pushed to the background. And while this, I think, does still have that street corner and approachable look, it has lost something in terms of presence. Excuse me. Next slide. And this was just to indicate to you all, when I talk about a colonnade, this is one that we did as an addition to First Parish in Concord, which is the primary meeting house in the middle of Concord and on the National Historic Registry. And here we did a new addition to a really treasured historic New England building. And the new colonnade is not a mimicry of any Roman or Greek architectural component. It's a, pretty clearly columns that structurally support a horizontal beam, which supports purlins that carry a roof. So we don't need the ornament of details and flutes and Ionic capitals to give it character. It has a character of its own, and I think a good amount of architectural integrity. And it has a glass roof, so that the space underneath the colonnade is not. So I just put this in the middle of the show to indicate that, if we have the opportunity, we can make a pretty good looking colonnade that is fitting and appropriate to a historical context. So the next slide, this was done after that wraparound porch, feeling that maybe something had been lost in the monumental civic presence of the building with the wraparound porch. And so introducing an arch motif over the main door to counterbalance that strong architectural motif in the middle of the old Ritter facade. And an arch is pretty powerful shape on a building. I love them on old masonry buildings where the arch is actually structurally spanning using bricks and keystones. I love them less when it's just a half circle cutout on a steel framed face. Doesn't have the architectural integrity of a real Roman arch, but undeniably they give you quite a bit of architectural presence, which I think is you want in a municipal building. And so the next sketch was kind of our jumping off point for modeling. To have something to show you today in a model, we decided to go with this one. It is by no means the final choice. We just felt like the sketches were a single view, and it'd be good to see how it looked in the round. And so deciding to not try to model all of them, that'd be impossible really in the time that we have, but to pick one to go with. This one combines the wraparound porch and the half round arch shaped window in the middle of the facade. And that was what we modeled. Excuse me, I gotta get a little.
Okay. Well, thank you, Robert, for that update. Marley, are you able to go to the renderings that you provided? Just that way we can talk about the I'm being mindful of the time here.
Are you looking for opinions?
Yep. So the first question is, so as we look at this, and I wanted to start from this rendering, are you able to orient us as if we're looking at it just north to south? Thank you. So the first question, and in this rendering that you're presenting, those aren't stairs. It's some kind of landscaping feature that you identify in front of Ritter. This is, it's a landscaping feature that you've identified that, will be kind of finalized. Let's start here. On the front of Ritter building, we've heard kind of mixed opinions. Again, if we add in stairs, it will not look like it looked when the building was built. There will have to be a ramp. Also that is there, and because the elevation, it will be quite significant. So that's the first start. Do we want to make a change here and pursue having an entrance and where the old entrance for Ritter used to be.
I have an opinion.
Yep.
So we need to do something with that facade. I mean, I guess, I, if we have to do something that's ADA accessible.
Can I interrupt before you keep going, Greg? Can we pull up the actual picture of that side of the building real quick so I can just visualize it while we're talking, what it looks like now?
Yeah, that would be helpful, Amanda. Thank you. I think I really want to address that wound on the building, if you will.
Mhm.
I don't want to do it in a way that we have to, create an accessible entrance. I want to be clear on that. But I think that we need to address it in some sort of manner that is I'll say historically appropriate, but is not trying to mimic exactly what it was, perhaps exactly what it was when, before it was altered.
Yeah, what we
So
had
I
in
don't know if I don't have a strong opinion on what we do there. I just think we have to do something.
Yep.
Well, what we were beginning to indicate in those sketches was a kind of a landscape feature that might be
Yeah.
a series of terraces or maybe a berm that would be a place to hang out in fair weather, but not a set
Yeah.
of stairs that leads you to think that you can take those stairs and go through those doors.
Yeah.
Okay.
My comments earlier, that's a good summary of what what I'm envisioning.
All right.
And then my only other comment is the sketch that I really liked beyond a shadow of a doubt was the one that interweaved. Keep going. That one right there. Nope, that one right there. That's the one that I really like. I'm not saying that it's a final thing, but for me, in my engineering brain, which I get is not everybody's brain, that to me looks really good. I think that it draws in the larger scale, but it also has a component where we have the where we envision a corner entrance, kind of a corner building here.
Yep.
I really like this one.
All right, so we're gonna take if we can keep this up here, we're gonna take the prominence of the facade as a separate topic. The first one is stairs in front of Ritter. And let's just do a quick straw poll here. Anyone on the committee interested in creating a entrance to Ritter from into the historic entrance to Ritter? So in other words, putting in stairs and a ramp. Do we have any interest in the committee in doing that? And the next question is going to be about options here, but any interest from the committee and putting in an entrance here?
So,
I'm not.
Mr. Chair, this is Dave. For me, if there's going to be an entrance on Mass Ave, that should be the entrance. So in other words, my personal feeling is that you are creating two separate areas here. You're creating a school side and you're creating a town side. And therefore, I don't understand the need for the entrance on Mass Ave when I'm going to enter the school side through the present 65 annex, and I'm going to enter the town side through School Street. So I look at this and I'm like going, I rather see that berm. If you're not going to make that the main entrance, I'd rather see something of architectural interest there and skip the whole idea of an entrance on Mass Ave then, because it's not where people will go. It won't be used. The entrance that will be used is School Street or the other side, as well as it creates the havoc with the sidewalk that we talked about. I mean, the crosswalk that we talked about.
Yep.
So I was the guy who brought up the steps. I'll say skip the steps and make that an entrance, but why bother with an entrance on Mass Ave? at
All
all.
right. Okay, so it sounds, and I'm gonna hit that next point here, Dave. So it sounds like we don't have much interest in putting an entranceway into Ritter, but it ties into the town hall. I don't see anyone else from the committee saying anything different. I'm gonna pause here, give me a couple seconds. Anyone else wants to jump in with advocacy for stairs and ramp onto the historic Ritter?
This is Matt Allison. I miss having, it's an eyesore. I totally agree with that. It's an eyesore as it is right now. We have to do something with it. And I kind of disagree with your interpretation of the ADA rules, regs. As far as proximity, I don't think it'd have to be going in the same hole in the building, but it's approximately close. But regardless, I mean, I even just unused stairs as a facade, I think it would look better, and that's all. I think that kind of speaks to Dave's point as well, but I won't speak for him. Thank you.
Okay, so next question is, what are these ideas? And Matt just mentioned one of them. What are some of our ideas on what this wound, how this wound could be healed? So we've heard some committee members say that they think stairs just to make it look right, even if there's not an actual entrance. The design team has presented us with, you know, again, there's more work to be done here. We certainly can ask them to come back next time with several different options. But they've kind of presented some landscaping options, a berm, some kind of, you know, there could also be some kind of addition or facade added to the building in that area. Let's just kind of round table this. What are our thoughts on what the next steps are here? Do we want to see the architectural team come to us with some options? We have strong opinions right now, one way or the other. And I'll see. I know Christina, Tom, see if you guys want to jump anything, throw anything at us right now on this one. But anyone else can certainly jump in here.
So I last week was in favor of having something done to this space. I know, I think realistically, we also have to keep in mind budget. We're not going to get a lot of leeway from the town to get more. I mean, maybe a terrace would be nice, like a stepping out area, but again, these are all added expenses that I don't know we have that luxury. So yes, I would like to see something done to it, but it's going to come at a cost, and we have to start to think, what can we tolerate and stomach and justify as extra costs, and what we kind of need to say, unfortunately, it is what it is. And like they kind of said earlier in the presentation, with the addition of the school space, that's going to add to the price tag, and I think we just need to be very realistic of that, because if we bring something way over budget or very high number to the town, it's going to get shut down, whether it's a very pretty building or something that's functional and would be better for the future. We really need to be mindful of that, and that's the one fear I have with this space and putting a lot of time and effort into it.
Okay. Mr. Gray, Mr. Allison.
I just as far as the stair area goes, is I envisioned it as just as a a fake stair to give the impression of what it would have looked like when it was originally built. Not to be an entrance. I thought that it could be used as a seating area in a square in that grassy area between Mass Ave and the building. I think that could be used for many things, and people could sit on it. So I don't think, but it's, I'm open to other things, such as things that the architects have talked about, so.
Okay. Mr. Roy?
Yeah, I don't want to cut in line.
We're only asking committee members right now.
Oh, all right. So I kind of agree with what Mr. Gray said. I guess my initial thoughts were, yeah, it doesn't have to be functional, but we got to put something there, right? And it doesn't have to be, anything too dramatic. But as I'm sitting here thinking about this, and also hearing what Christina just said about cost, which I'm totally on board with. I can't help but think, I wonder if it would help the cause to show the town what this space could be with this new building. We're creating essentially a really nice opportunity for a central green in the center of Lunenburg, if you think about this. And yeah, it may be too expensive for this project. And it may be outside the scope of this particular exercise. But I would be remiss if I didn't think about the fact that this is an opportunity to create a really nice green space right in the middle of town that we might be able to present as an ad alternate on the project. And yeah, it might be too expensive and we can't build it, but it's an easy ad alternate to delete it. But it might be an interesting exercise for the town, particularly on the presentation side, to say, hey, if we renovate this building in this manner, it gives us a really good opportunity to have a really nice green space in the center of town. This is what it might look like. And yeah, if it costs $1 million over the project ad, we can over the project cost, the budget, we can easily eliminate it on an ad alternate type bidding scheme. But I don't know. I don't know if it's in the scope of our of our work here, but it was a thought.
All right, Mrs. Cullenbrini.
The problem with putting stairs, where the Ritter building used to have stairs, is that it then redefines where people think they should enter the building. And I think that's a huge problem for the design as it stands today. Well, it looks like it needs some treatment because the stairs have been removed. Adding anything that resembles I mean, I think you could actually put stairs there. You could recreate the stairs and use historic preservation guidelines as a way to deal with, since we're going to have alternate ways for handicapped people to get in the building. Like if you don't put a sidewalk up to the stairs, you would convey that this isn't the place to enter the building. There are other handicap accessible. It's more or less an architectural feature that's not functional. I think you could do that, and I think you could get along with it. But I think that you really do lead people to go, oh, was that where I'm supposed to go? And I think that's a major problem for what we're trying to get done here in terms of bringing people into the building. The other issue is, we haven't talked about this, but I forget, I think it was Laura, someone brought up the fact that, no, it was Dave, who said, hey, you got access to the school side from Lancaster Avenue, you got access to Town Hall from School Street. Well, the problem with the access to the school side from Lancaster is it's not handicap accessible. And we haven't talked about making that handicap accessible. So that would be a piece of work that has to get added into the project. And before we start adding, non-functional stairs to kind of, restore the front of the Ritter building, I think we need to look at the cost of adding that handicap ramp. Once again, I go back and say, if we really focused on the annex side and did a whole bunch of things on the annex side, I think we could find the space and we could create the kind of entryway that would be needed to get people into the building to do their business at both the new addition, AKA the old annex, and the Ritter building. So I think that we have to be really careful about putting stairs. It's unfortunate that the stairs got removed, and think about what we would be talking about if they were there, and we were trying to make the Ritter building accessible to handicap. The only way you could do it would be to create a long ramp, either running parallel and zigzagging back and forth to the front of the building, or a long ramp from Mass Avenue up into the building. So it's not an easy issue for us to address I think, through these conversations. You know, Michael Ray, I think that, I know you want to kind of give the architects some guidance on what needs to be done next. I think we're struggling here to do that, and I think maybe what we ought to do is get the input from the staff. And then once you have the interior, once you have that input from the staff, then maybe we could narrow down what we want the architect to do with the exteriors. You know, we're running 2 hours into this meeting, and I think it's difficult given where we are without staff input.
Thank you, Tony. I think that where we're landing here, Stephen and Robert, is that it would be helpful at our next meeting for you to provide us with some options. So it sounds like what we're hearing is that essentially pseudo stairs would look good. You know, there used to be a stairway here with plants on the side, so you know, maybe some plantings could look good. You know, but if you can come to us next week with some options, or not next week, but if you can come to us with some options for this, I think that that would be helpful next steps. That way we could kind of narrow it down. All right, anyone, are we all in agreement on that? Nod of the head, yes. Okay. All right, next area to kind of hit is the prominence on School Street. So one of the design standards, and Tony, I want you to feel free to interrupt me. One of the design standards from the Department of Interior is that, you know, additions to historic buildings need to look distinctively different. And so, you know, part of when you're creating what we're doing here is we're creating a town hall. And we are purposing to, and we also are creating school district offices. It's two separate buildings. But because they're on the same lot and right next to each other, it seems to make sense to connect them. And so, you know, but we are talking about two distinctively different structures. Typically in a community, you know, and Robert, you can jump in here too on this one. I know early on, and what many architects have told me and what many members of the public even know, is that buildings need to be public facing. And so, you know, when we had that conversation last week about the orientation of School Street or Mass Ave, had to do with, you know, that there needs to be, if Mass Ave is how people driving will see it, that there must be some kind of prominence along Mass Ave for people to observe, even if it is not the actual primary entrance, but it still resolves as the front of the building. If I said anything incorrect, Tony or Robert, please jump in there and correct me.
No, I agree 100% with what you just said. I think that even if people are not primarily entering the building on Mass Ave, they will be passing by this facade on their way to the parking lot. They will recognize it as town hall and then approach it from after they've parked their car. I mean, 90% of the people, I think, using the building will drive around this corner to the parking and then walk up to it from the other side. There will also, though, be people who are seeing the building from the position of the old town hall or the, you know, the common, if that's what you call it, or the green in the middle of Lunenburg. And I think it needs to have civic presence from that center, you know, crossroads of town. Even if it's not an everyday entrance, it's and it's hard to make a building facade have that presence if there's no visible entry point on that facade.
Okay.
Yeah.
So going backwards then, as we looked at these sketches, and we can go back that one slide, I agree with Mr. Roy that, oh, Dave, just go ahead and jump in.
So this, I understand what you're saying about a presence and all that stuff. So we've determined that we would like to see some presence at the old entrance to the Ritter, the old facade where there was stairs. Why can't I make that something prominent? Whether it's sitting areas on two sides with some way to get up to the sitting areas or something to that effect, like a park, or like a little garden area, something like that, to make this building stand out. I just don't believe that the money spent on the entranceway on Mass Ave to New Town Hall is money well spent. I look at that as that could be another office with a window. And, you know, like I said, who's coming from School Street that's gonna walk all the way around to the front of the building to go into this building? Your traffic to this building will be either Lancaster Ave or School Street. That's it.
Yep.
And that's why I don't understand, you know, when we're looking at budgets, I'd rather see a budget towards a nice looking front to the old Ritter to really distinguish this building and to make it look something special than spending money on a entrance on Mass Ave to make it, I don't know what to make it of that.
Well, let me throw another idea out there that is following upon several comments that, you know, we could look at this space that's formed in the shape of by this U-shaped building as a potential outdoor green space, a prominent, you know, outdoor space in the middle of Lunenburg. And I think that thinking about what is the entrance into town hall from that green space and having a porch or something like that along the Mass Ave face does give you an entrance into that green space or from the green space into town hall. Just,
yeah. So I think what I want to try to get committee clarity on here is the renderings. Mr. Roy and I are expressing an interest in the prominence of this sketch. And if we can just highlight what the actual rendering is, the next sketch, that is the actual that you've kind of built out. I want to get committee member input on, you know, if we feel strongly one way or the other here. So
I have something to add to this.
Yep.
I understand what Dave's saying. But visually speaking, there's nobody that drives down School Street and is going to see the entrance to a town hall. Everybody that drives down Route 2A, which is everybody in town, is going to see the end of this building. I don't care if this is not, if this is a ceremonial entrance only, it's got to look like the entrance to town hall, in my opinion. I'm not an architect, but I just, you can't leave this as a entrance-less, nondescript gable end of a building, because it's just everybody in town is gonna drive by this, and it's got to look like it doesn't matter if no one uses the entrance. That it's got to look like the entrance to town hall, in my opinion.
All right, Greg, I share your opinion. Matt, what is your opinion?
I've already expressed my opinion. I don't disagree with what Greg just said. Very good point. But then we get back to the question of where the crosswalk's going to be. Are we going to have more than two of them? I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but you know, it's a pretty building. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Gray or Mr. Gray, and then I'm coming to Christina and then Brian.
I do think that the Mass Ave view of Town Hall needs to be taken into consideration. Like Greg, I agree that if it's only a ceremonial entrance is fine. Talking about the crosswalk, I'm less concerned about the crosswalk because I think we're thinking that the current town hall is going to have a lot of people going to the new town hall. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think there'll be very few people wanting to, you know, go from the one side of Mass Ave to the other side where the new town hall is, because I just don't think that will be the case, because all the employees will be in the new town hall, so there will be no reason for them to go to the old town hall, so they won't have to walk back and forth.
I think the reason why they would go is larger meetings, but Christina, any what are your thoughts on prominence of view from Town Hall? I know that we voted last week that the entrance would be along Mass Ave, but I just want to dig into the prominence of this view.
I'm still where I stand last week, and I think I was one that brought it up that town hall needed a very prominent stance on Mass Ave, as many people will be driving by it, and I stand by that. Even if it's not widely used, we need to have a strong facing building
Okay.
there.
And Brian, I recall you expressing a similar opinion, but
Yeah, I did, and I think that was the main reason I didn't like the porch. I felt like the porch didn't have the prominence that without the porch did. I felt like without the porch, it was a little bit more prominent.
okay. So it sounds like the majority of the committee is in agreement that we want a prominent facade facing Mass Ave. Now, how prominent? Do we like this rendering with the porch, or do we prefer the design that the architectural team has presented with us? So I think Mr. Roy and I like what we're looking at. If we can just go to the slide of what you're actually proposing, and so we can just get consensus here on this. Thank you. So I'm just asking, and if I can start with Tony. Tony, what are your thoughts?
We have too many entrances. If you had an L-shaped complex versus a U-shaped complex, you could still bring people from School Street parking to the building, to the new addition. And you could still have a piece that faces Mass Avenue. I do completely agree that there has to be an entrance on Mass Avenue. At the same time, there needs to be an entrance from people who are parking on 3rd and School Street. I think if you went with an L-shaped complex, I actually like a variety of the structural presentations of the addition that the architect has presented. I just think it would be better if it was in an L shape versus a U shape, because then you would limit the number of entry points. You could create like a little meandering sidewalk that would be bringing people up from the 30 School Street site, past the northwest corner or the northeast corner of Ritter, and put some trees and shrubbery in there to kind of hide the fact that you no longer have stairs. You could still see that, and then bring them into that side of where the addition is as the main entryway, or bring them around to the front where Mass Avenue is. I just think that we could solve so many of these problems if we had an L-shaped complex with multi-levels versus the U shape. And I'm going to continue to say that until you guys tell me to stop it. That's my input.
All right. Christine, yeah, I'm sorry. Prominence of the question is this rendering, previous renderings that we've seen, are we feeling strongly about any of these one way or the other? I'll go to Christina, then Tom, then Brian.
I'm in between both of them, I think. Have their advantages and disadvantages. I think not to be long-winded, I think the side, the one without, I don't know, the side overhang gives for a more prominent Mass Ave entrance, but the one with the side thing, it's nice because it gives people an area outside to like stand in the summer or on a rainy day. So I'm in between.
Okay. Mr. Gray.
Let's see, which one we had? I like the other one better, the one not pictured right now.
The previous one?
Yes, the one that says Town Hall on it. Yes, that one there. I do like that visual better.
Okay. Brian?
I do like this one better. I think it doesn't have a porch look to it too. You can still have a covering without having a porch, I feel like too.
Okay. Laura, I know that you sent us an email and had a lot of thoughts about this. So if you're still with us, if you wouldn't mind letting us know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I like one back. I think it makes a better use of the space. Not this view, but the other view.
So we've gone too far back, maybe
sorry,
forward a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, forward.
This one?
Yep. I like this one because the columns between the windows are reminiscent of the columns I was talking about while still being modern. So I like how that harkens back. I'd be interested to see that rendering in color. And like Brian said, you still get the covered area without it being more in your face about being a porch. So I really like that one. I'm a big fan of that one. I really like that.
Mr. Chair, quick question here.
Yep.
All right, so first, if there's an entrance on Mass Ave, I prefer this one over the prominent porch. I like this one. It looks more stately. It looks more like it fits in. My other question is the ramp between the two buildings. First of all, is there a big difference whether this is open or covered in expense? And could it be just from the second floor to the second floor? Not the first floor to the first floor? Does that save anything? So I'm looking at it as, how often do the school departments come visit the town departments? And if it was an open ramp, so yes, in the winter I have to put a coat on, but if it was more open, does that save anything in cost or anything like that? I know there is some office there, but maybe there's a way of squaring the building up or doing something a little bit different on this but I'd like to see it maybe not, it's two separate functions. I know they're both on the same lot, but it's two separate functions, and it'd be nice to kind of separate them a little bit more.
I have an opinion on that.
Yep, Mr. Roy.
I hear Dave. So I have two comments on this. One is to agree with Dave in that I think what I'm hearing Dave saying is there's not really going to be much use in a connection from the first floor of Town Hall to the ACE program. I don't see the need for that right now, practically. Now, that's not to say that there won't be a need someday if we ever repurpose that space for something else. But right now, so that leads credence to Dave's question. But I also think that one of the things I liked about this plan versus the one that was presented 2 weeks ago is that this one, it still kind of looks like a hallway, but if you look at the floor plan where we've integrated some office space in it, it's a functional connection. So yes, we have the hallway space on both floors, but we have office space on both floors. So we have functional square footage. We are sacrificing whatever, a 5-foot by 30-foot corridor on the, Mass Ave side of this, but we're packaging it in with usable office space, which I liked about this, plan. It wasn't just a complete waste of connection. So I don't know. I go back and forth on that. I feel like it'd be short-sighted. My sense, Dave, I think you probably have the same sense as, yeah, if we just elevate if we don't put a frost wall foundation on this thing and we elevate a second floor connection, it would probably be cheaper. But I don't know. We're actually gaining floor space on this. It seems like they've integrated, on this floor plan here, we got the assistant town clerk that kind of morphs into the historic district, office on the first floor here. And then there's also space on the upstairs side. So I think we'd be sacrificing something. And then also from a future standpoint, yeah, right now we're planning on ACE program for that basement floor, but who's to say that's the way that it's going to always be? I think that it might be short-sighted to to not plan for a connection of both floors. It's personally my opinion.
Anyone else want to throw in any thoughts on this? And all right. The 1960 window. We've had a couple of different conversations about the superintendent's office and that window. If we can just pull this one, do we want to guide the architectural team to kind of keep that window, or do we want to see some variation? So the first thing before we get into the variations, do we want to have them keep the window as it is, new window?
I'll start on this one. I can't stand that window. I hope we modernize it at a minimum. But I hope we go as far as what Dave said and completely change the look and feel of that window. but you know, I wanted to come out of the gate strong on that one, but I realize I may be a dissenting view on that.
All right.
I
Mr.
agree.
Gray.
Yeah, I agree with Greg. I don't like the look of the window, and it's an eyesore to me, but that's my opinion.
That's something that the superintendent might actually have some input on, which once again is, we need to get staff input before we start fine tuning these exterior designs.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's going to care if we put a modern day metal cased, almost like a curtain wall style approach there. You know, which is kind of what I envision. Like just something that's modern, metal clad type thing. I mean, I don't know. I'm no architect, but
I
I
guess
just
what I'm
don't think
asking
that we
clarity
need the
on,
lighted.
I think what I'm asking clarity on is, once you start introducing brick, right, we're never going to get a perfect match. So everything's going to have to be painted anyway. But I think what I'm asking is, do we still want, I think the assumption is that that window is getting replaced. But do we want
so.
that large prominent window, let's say it's a new window, or do we want this to be broken up into a different type design? I think that's what I'm asking for clarity on. It sounds like, Greg, you're saying do something different. Tony's saying do something different. Sounds like Tom's saying do something different. I like the window. Matt?
I also like the window, but it does need to be replaced. And if the majority of people don't like it, it needs to be replaced. It's garbage, useless. It doesn't block the wind right now, but I like it, but I withdraw, basically. That matters not.
Yep. Christina?
I like it. I think changing it's going to be too complicated. I think it's a statement piece for that building, and taking that away and cutting it in half it changes it.
Brian?
I think it's important to replace it. I think important to upgrade things. And if the architect has aesthetic ideas, then I'd be open to suggestions.
So based on the majority here, and Dave, I'm sorry I didn't come to you, Dave.
No, my feeling was I don't like the window. I do agree with Tony that asking the superintendent is appropriate since it's going to be her office at this point. So I do feel that's appropriate. However, my vote is to change it.
Okay.
To make the building more somewhat more cohesive.
All right. So we are.
One more thing, Mr.
Yep.
Chair. Sorry. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. I think we need to consult with the department heads, school committee included, on the floor plan. I do not think we need to consult with the department heads on the window treatments, what we're doing with the windows. I think that there's going to be windows in the office. I think if it's two smaller windows or if it's one big window, I think we need to be careful not to extend, I'll say it. I think we need to be careful not to extend that level of extend that level of participation.
I think we're pretty split here. So I think that we are going to need to get some staff input into this. But I agree with you, Greg. So I think that
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a corner office with a window.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anybody's really going to care if it's, what the actual look and feel of the thing is, as long as it's a modern window and it doesn't, let in cold air,
All right.
personally, but I could be
So I
wrong.
think we are, I appreciate everyone's time. I want to pause for the public to offer any thoughts the public may have before we give some kind of final guidance here to the team. Anyone from the public?
I have a quick comment, Michael Ray.
Of course.
Going all the way back to the stairs I didn't really get a chance to say anything there, but maybe we consider doing some sort of like large, like those granite, like almost seats instead of stairs, that we could have like a sitting area out there that could be cost prohibitive. I don't know if you've already talked about that, but instead of stairs to an entryway, sort of more of a gathering space for either, kids can sit out there, kind of like we have those random seats behind the library, was a thought that I had. Otherwise, I think the plans look fantastic. I did watch the last presentation. I think you guys have done a great job. I agree thoroughly that we cannot put another sidewalk on Mass Ave. I don't think that I agree with, some of your previous comments. I don't think that that's even feasible at all. But looking good. Excited to see it all come out.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much, Amanda. And I didn't introduce you when you came in, but Amanda is also a member of the select board. And Laura, she already noted, she is a member of the school committee, even though she's not here as a member of the school committee. Laura, you wanted to say something? Then I'll call on Anna.
Actually, yeah, the thing I had wanted to say earlier was exactly what Amanda had said about like big, large stone blocks in front of the Ritter building where the steps used to be, to mimic the stone blocks that the steps used to be seating for people. I think that would be an excellent thing. So it wouldn't obviously be steps, but it would sort of mimic the shape of it. And I'm not sure how much that costs. For some reason, it's probably way more than I'm thinking it is, because everything always is. But if it's not cost prohibitive, that would be fantastic to just have seating out there as for another gathering area, and then sort of hide the ugliness and still have it call back to its original purpose as steps. That's it.
Thank you, Laura. Anna.
Hi, Anna Lockwood, 91 Main Street. So I watch your meetings, but I knew this one was going to be big, so I'm trying to watch it and catch up. First, I just want to thank all the committee members for dedicating the time they have to this project. It's a big project, it's an important project. It's good to see the town moving forward on resolving the building issues. Generally speaking, I love that you're all sitting in a virtual room and discussing and making decisions together. It's interesting because my opinion will be just 1 of 2 cents, and you guys have a great group of people sharing ideas, giving feedback, and I'm really impressed by the cohesiveness of the group, how you guys are working together. And I just want to thank you. And and I'm sure that whatever the outcome is, it will be the best outcome because you guys have done a great job. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Very appreciated. Any additional comments here? All right. Robert, right now, cost of an elevator shaft for 2-story building. I have in my head it's close to $600,000-$700,000. What are you seeing, if you know, right now?
That's higher than my guess would be. I would guess more like 400, 350 maybe. If it's a elevator within an existing building, you can build that shaft using shaft wall. It doesn't necessarily need to be a CMU, a concrete tube. The expense is really in the equipment, the controls, the pumps, I'm assuming it'd be a hydraulic elevator. You need to look into whether you have 3-phase power. I'm assuming that You may not in the Ritter building, and so bringing that in, I think we have to do significant electrical upgrade anyway, so probably that would be available with the new addition. So that would not, you're not far off. I think it's in that range of, yeah. You're talking about the elevator in the Ritter, the lift, that replacing that and making it a real elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Part of the problem with putting an elevator in the middle of a building is that you start an excavation program in the middle of a building. And so you have to bring in, equipment that can dig a hole, cut through slabs, while you still have a ceiling overhead. It's kind of a mining operation in the middle of a building, and it can be full of surprises.
I asked that question because one of the last question I had up here was that lift. And I want us to give you better guidance. Because it sounds as though we have 2 elevators already in the new town hall that get everyone to the 2nd floor. I think we've already recognized that there's probably going to be minimal cross traffic going between the buildings, but there will be some. And so I'm asking the committee for their thoughts on the lift that's currently in Ritter building. Does that need to be upgraded to a new elevator, or can we upgrade the lift? Greg.
I think we need to upgrade to a modern facility. If there's a lift option that is more reliable, I'd say fine. But I really think that on both of these buildings, at the end of the day, we need to deliver a building that is modern. If that means that we need to add in a modern day full-fledged elevator, then I think we got to do it. I really do. I just don't think we can. It doesn't make any sense to put millions of dollars into a building and then hinge, access to a couple floors on an antiquated piece of equipment, in my opinion.
All right. Are we all in agreement with Greg's perspective on this? We can just nod, say yes.
I'm not. I mean, I think the mechanics of it need to be replaced, but I don't think the idea of it's splitting one level. It goes from bottom to the halfway to the top. It's not going a full story. I mean, it is going a full story, but it's not going 2 full stories. Like the new Ritter building, there's going to be 1 elevator shaft servicing 2 levels, right? The one that's at the Ritter existing, it goes. Does that even go upstairs? I don't think it does.
No, it just goes from the basement to the landing.
It goes a half a floor. So the upstairs apparently is existing, not accessible. Right?
I could be wrong, but I think Matt, it doesn't go.
That's the case. There's storage there. There's no door.
Yeah.
So we need not to put a brand new elevator shaft in that old building. I totally agree with the architect, and I don't disagree with Greg, but with a hydraulic, I mean, we can do single story hydraulic lifts pretty cheap, and I would think that they're pretty good quality. I don't understand.
I'm sorry, are you saying that the Ritter building isn't going to be ADA accessible from the entrance, the school, the Lancaster Ave entrance that we're going to be asking people to use for the school department?
No, that's not at all what we're saying. I think the question that I'm asking the committee right now is whether or not that lift should be replaced with an elevator. And so no matter what, it has to be accessible. So the question is a lift or a full elevator. It's 2 different products.
If you replace the lift, how would people get to that 2nd story up?
So there's 2 options. Option 1 is to improve the lift so that an elevator is a enclosed kind of function with a cab. A lift is similar to an elevator, but a little bit different. So the question that I'm asking the committee is whether or not we want to put in a new elevator into the building or the side of the building, or if we want to have a lift. It's a difference in cost. So, anyone, my opinion is similar to the architect's opinion, which is that I don't think it's a wise idea to put a lift in the middle of the building that goes to the second floor. But I do agree with Mr. Roy. I think we may want to consider an elevator shaft for the Ritter building that's outside the existing footprint. But anyone else have thoughts on this one?
Can I cut in? I'm sorry.
Of
I'm just
course.
confused if we go lift, it stays where it is today. We're not really changing anything. If we go elevator, then that changes the outside of the building, presumably facing Mass Ave, because I don't see how we could get it on the back end. And that also changes the layout of the programming.
Yep. Stephen or Robert, do you guys want to jump in here?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think that it is a one-story elevator. It, you know, with 3 stops, one at a mid-level point, and there is this type of elevator. It's called a Lula lift, limited use, limited access, which travels a limited distance, and the deficiency of that current lift is that it doesn't have enough footprint for a person to go in with a wheelchair and move around in that elevator and then leave. It's just tiny. I think that it could probably be replaced with a new Lula lift that would travel the same distance and have the same stops, but would have a bigger footprint and would be all new mechanism and wouldn't be as complicated as putting in a new shaft. It needs to all be looked into more carefully, but we haven't, frankly, we haven't really focused on that in all of the work that we've been doing. But we have put Lula elevators in, or Lula lifts in, other buildings that had similar situations. And I let me look into it further, because I don't think that that's really where you want to be spending all of your budget. But I agree that at the end of the day, you do want to have a fully modernized facility and not have relics of, you know, dysfunctional past in the middle of, you know, after you've spent $15 million or whatever to have a broken down lift in the middle of your new building. I think that would really be a disservice to the general public, and people would wonder, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chair, I can't find oh, sorry, Greg.
No, go ahead.
I was hoping to jump in if it's
Yeah.
appropriate.
Yep.
I just have a couple thoughts on the lift or versus elevator, and I don't know how it works out financially, because I do know how expensive they are. But I know that in our public safety building, one of the biggest issues that we've had is we can't have public access to the second floor of that building, because even though there is a shaft for an elevator, it was not placed. I think it would be remiss if we don't fully look at it, and whether, you know, it's costed out at a full elevator and we decided not to do it. But I think looking at that option is important, especially knowing the town's history of not fully finishing projects. You know, we don't have air conditioning in one of our school buildings. We don't have an elevator in the public safety building. I think would be doing us in the town a disservice if we don't fully look at it and at least know what the cost of that would be to have a full elevator, regardless of whether it's outside or not. I work in the townhouse in the town of Concord, and we have a lift in that building, and it's relatively new. That building was just renovated 2 years ago, and it breaks down all the time. We have elderly people that get stuck in the lift. It's not something that I would want to see in our town building. But again, I know that cost could be prohibitive there, but those are my 2 thoughts. Thanks.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add is that, you know, you've got to, this is where we definitely need the school input, because they're going to be using this for the ACE program on the lower level. I think there was at least a, you know, I'll call it an insinuation that perhaps this would be used more than normal in that situation, in the particular configuration that we're looking to use this building. So, you know, I know it's expensive, but I think that we get out 5 years after this project to Amanda's point. I don't think we're going to regret it, right? But we will regret it if we don't build it. I think. I mean, I think that's more likely. Just hindsight's 2020. And when when I was on the committee that built the Lunenburg Middle High School, and we value engineered. We VE'd out a lot of stuff, millions of dollars of stuff. And yes, we were able to add some back in because we got some good favorable bids, but you regret it in the end. You just do. And I realize we have we have to present this to town meeting, but I think we got to be careful about building trying to present this as a 50-year plus renovation project and not putting in real basic building systems like that.
So in my own experience, putting in elevators is usually cost prohibitive, especially in an existing building. And this one being historic, I do envision that there's going to be a significant cost difference. So I think, Robert, if you guys are able to do some analysis that's, and give us, some sense of guidance. I know that there's going to be cost estimation coming up here, but I think on this one point, it would be helpful to have some cost estimation, because to be clear, with these buildings connected, we already have 2 elevators that go to the 2nd floor. The real question is, when you come into the school building, can we reliably use a lift? That's the question. And it's not going to be prominently used. I think that there will minimal usage compared to what will happen at town hall or the meeting house, but I do think it would be helpful if we had some cost understanding or cost or even process. As how you usually get these things in buildings is usually from the top. And so, that's pretty significant when we think about Ritter and trying to drop an elevator into the middle of the building. So that would just be helpful guidance. All right, I see the time here, and I know that during these meetings that these are longer meetings, and I do appreciate everyone for being so willing to commit so much time to these. It sounds like we hit a lot of ground tonight and hit a lot of different areas. Again, I'm going to ask, I know that your team, final questions from Marley or Stephen or Robert, anything that we can give more clear guidance on, please advise.
Marley or Stephen, do you want to say anything?
No, I think from my perspective, we have an awful lot to work on. So thank you all for your very thoughtful and colorful feedback. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marley, do you have any? No.
I don't think so.
Well, I would just say I'm deeply impressed by your committee's attention to detail and your persistence on this matter. I know it's very important to your town, and you're doing a very, very good job representing the interests of your citizens. I gotta say, it's impressive, your ability to take in quite a bit of information and develop so many thoughtful responses to it. We've gotten just a boatload of feedback from this. It's been really, really productive for us. So thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Robert. I will certainly be in touch following the meetings that we have on Wednesday with that feedback. I know some of it may be competing in the sense of, there may be a variety of views that differ from one another, but I will not filter it. I plan on recording it and providing it forward. And so that way I think you guys can kind of, I think you've done a great job of being able to hear the variety of feedback we've already provided and come to us with depictions and plans that capture all that. So next steps for us here are, the process we're about to engage in is the stakeholder feedback process. We did this on the front end. Again, if we didn't have a gap in this process, essentially we concluded all the meetings with entities, we identified space needs, we challenged all the space needs, and then we compiled kind of our assessment of what was needed. And one of the things with department heads, whether department head changes or it comes or goes, the needs of the office shouldn't vary. They shouldn't change. From department head A to department head B, it both should essentially be able to identify whether or not space is adequate. So the next step is stakeholder feedback and making sure that from what they came to us with of what they needed, that now we've done the job of packaging it. And so we go back to them and say, is this the package that makes the most sense to you? And I think that this process is, of course, quick, efficient as we go through this, but it is very necessary to capture that feedback. Also, I will be going to present this to the community tomorrow night at the select board. And so we will be hearing select board feedback. And I expect that over the coming week or so, that there likely will be some community feedback as well. So as we receive that, I will forward that out to the whole team here, so that way we're all on the same page of music and are able to review all that. All right, Robert, I want to thank you and your team for your time tonight. I know these meetings are hard, especially when your typical workday starts at 8:30, and these become essentially 12, 13-hour days for you guys. I know that we're in some hard work here, but I do appreciate the volume of work. And what doesn't happen in this meeting, so everyone's aware, is Robert's team has been on site very frequently. I think they were on the structural engineers at Town Hall were there for 4 or 5 hours last Friday with Chris Ruth. There have been quite a lot of engagement, a lot of phone calls, requests for information. So there's a lot happening outside of these meetings as well. And I just want to thank again our committee and Robert, your team, for this effort.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael Ray, and thank you, committee.
All right. We're going to keep going through our agenda. We got to approve some minutes, but I think our next meeting to confirm, we've pushed it to Wednesday, the 22nd. So Wednesday, the 22nd at 5:30 p.m. And I know that as a step that, we may have some minor changes at that point, but I know that cost estimation needs to happen, and it likely will go off of the renderings that are produced on the 22nd. All right, thanks everyone. And then I'll pause to give you time to drop off here, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, so I just did something here I shouldn't have done. Okay. Everyone just disappeared on me. All right. So I know it's late in the evening, you guys. Thank you. I know, again, a couple hard meetings, lengthy. What we have next is just, I've already gone over the updates to other boards. So again, I'm presenting to the select board tomorrow night. I've already mentioned like 4 or 5 times the meetings that I'm having on Wednesday. Certainly, if anyone wants to join me, you're welcome to. It's going to be 8 a.m. with the town clerk, 8:30 with the department heads and superintendent, and then 9:15 with the Historical Society. Again, everything will be to staff.
Where is that?
It's going to be on the 2nd floor of Town Hall. So the 8 o'clock will be in the town clerk's office. The 8:30 will be at the 2nd floor of Town Hall. And the 9:15, I have some flexibility there in case that one runs late. But the 9:15 will be at the 10 School Street with the Historical Society.
Yeah, I may wander in for the night for the 8:30. We'll see.
Okay, that'd be helpful, Greg, if you can.
I'll try. I got a meeting at 9, I think, but I'll try. See what I can do.
And I know Tony, even when he's not necessarily in agreement, he does a great job of representing the group. So, Tony, if you are interested and available, always enjoy spending time with you.
Okay, I won't be available tomorrow morning though.
Okay. All right, we have some minutes. So we have 2 sets of minutes from December the 2nd and then minutes from December the 16th. Has everyone had the time to read them, or do we want to wait till the 22nd to approve?
I read them.
Right.
Okay.
I just I'll make a motion on the December 2nd one to approve. I'm going to abstain from the next one, but I just wanted to correct the record on the 16th. I was not there, so it says I was.
Thanks.
But I'd make a motion to approve the minutes of December, I think it's December 2nd.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? This could be a roll call vote. Mr. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Roy,
Aye.
Mr. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Scullin-Brini,
Aye.
Mr. Leighton,
Aye.
and Mrs. Masidas. And I know she has to unmute, so I'll go to Mr.
Aye.
Blatt.
Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Blatt,
Once again, I'm just I'm good for the 16th, I can't comment. I wasn't there.
minutes are approved. Let's go to the December the 16th minutes. I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the minutes of December 16th.
I'll second again.
All right, a motion and a second. We're gonna roll call this one as well. Mr. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Leighton,
Aye.
Mr. Scullin-Brini,
Aye.
Mrs. Masidas,
Aye.
Mr. Roy,
Abstain.
and Mr. Blatt.
Abstain.
Thank you. The minutes are approved. Brian, if you'll be so kind as to send them to the town clerk.
Yeah, I'll make that revision and send it in.
Thank you. What we have coming up. So as soon as we have our next meeting coming up on the 22nd, we should expect that one to be another lengthy meeting. And then getting into February, we have their final kind of presentation and renderings provided to us on February 3rd. And those are the renderings that will be presented to the select board on February the 4th. Once we have that, we need to pivot to the next charge that has come down the pike, which is related to Brooks, the Brooks House. Based on the fall town meeting and the decision by the select board following that, we do have a bit of work to do here on the Brooks House. So that's going to probably occupy us heavily through February and into March. And that way we can, with the goal of trying to have that wrapped up by the beginning of April. It's not on the agenda, so I'm not going to dig too heavy into it. But that is going to be our heavy task for a couple weeks. Our next meeting again is Wednesday, January the 2nd, and then February the 3rd, and then February the 4th. So we can talk about who's available to come to the meeting on the 4th. I will plan to post it as a joint meeting with the select board, but representation at that meeting will be fine. Thank you all for all your time tonight. Any final comments from any member, from anyone?
Yeah, just, I'll say out loud, just in case we have a quorum related issue, I will plan to attend tomorrow night, Michael Ray, at the select board. So and I don't have to participate unless you need me. And then I also just wanted to say I'm appreciative of the members of the public that weighed in, particularly Laura. I can never pronounce her last name, even though I'm a fellow. I have a Polish background myself. Brzezowski, and Anna always. So I know they're not on anymore, but I did appreciate it. It's nice to have members of the public participating in the meeting this evening. So.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that I will be leaving early on the 22nd. I have a off-cycle school committee meeting on the 22nd.
Greg, I completely agree with your comments about doing this job the right way the first time. Quality is long remembered and price is soon forgotten. I bet you if you ask people today what the middle high school cost, they wouldn't know. But they would know what I know you would know.
68 million.
They know what's wrong with it. They know what's wrong with the building. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. They know that, things aren't what they need to be down at the track and,
Yeah.
I remember asking an electrician why electricians got to do all of their work where other trades usually could get laborers to help dig holes and stuff. And that's because the electrician said, our work is really important and the quality of our work will be long remembered after they forget how much they paid us to do it. And it's so true. I mean, I absolutely positively agree with you. We do not want to go in and do this in a way that we would regret, 3-4 years down the road. And then one last comment, Michael. There's only one historic building at that location. It's the Ritter Building. The annex is not historic. We
Right.
could blow the annex up and it wouldn't bother me a bit.
Make sure we're recording this. Remember the historical.
Yeah, well,
commission.
I
There
think
is a
the annex
building in
is an
town that's not
absolute, it's a
historic.
wart. Yeah. And you know what? If we did blow it up, it'd be a lot easier to deal with this project. And it probably wouldn't cost us any more money. We did that all the time at the base. We got rid of the crappy things and we kept the historic stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other final comments here? All right. Thank you all again for your time. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thank you. All right. We're gonna do a roll call vote on this one to adjourn. Mr. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Roy,
Aye.
Mr. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Leighton,
Aye.
Mr. Scullenbrini,
Aye.
Mr. Blatt,
Aye.
and Mrs. Masidas.
Aye.
And an aye for myself. The time is 8:28. Thank you again. We are adjourned. Next meeting again, January 22nd, 5:30 p.m. Look forward to seeing you there. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Good night.